Internet. We might have a little bit of a prototype channel going on this week, because I got a couple things to show you this week, and most of them are not released yet. So that's kind of exciting for me to get in ahead of the curve on a couple things. So what do we got in front of us? Well, you guys might remember this, the Prime from Celurion. And I really, really like this. This was by a gentleman by the name of Marcus Molitor. He's a young guy from Germany, and kind of had some really cool initiative, entrepreneurship, what have you, and kind of came out with a spinner. And it was a really great design. I was really kind of pleased with it. He has a very similar fidgeting style he mentioned in one of his videos to mine, likes the preloaded flicks. And this thing shows, and it was, I just liked a lot of what was going on. He had a couple issues with machining, but some tremendous perseverance, and saw it through. So I was really happy to bump my camera. No, I was really happy to get out of here. Get out of here, Proton. Encroaching on the video. You're a good spinner, but this isn't your video. Yeah, so he really kind of came through, run into a bunch of machining issues, had to switch machinists, wasn't getting the quality he wanted, and ended up, I don't really think, perhaps taking a loss, but not making anything on the spinner, which is kind of sad for someone that put that much work and effort into it. So, yeah, this seemed to be really well received from the people that did get it and did enjoy it, and I really, I was one of those people, really enjoyed it. Despite, kind of the issues he had with the first one, rather than being like, all right, that's it, I'm done with spinners, he came out with a couple more designs. And now look at these bad boys. Now let's just get it out of the way first. I guess a couple things. First and foremost, it's gonna be my stupid line for the channel. But a couple things on this. So right away you'll notice Kong buttons. And you'll probably notice that the finish and the quality on this isn't all that great. I'm just kind of calling that out because these are actually prototypes he sent me, so these are not indicative of the final machine finish. They will have a nice machine finish or a stone wash option, and then these are not the buttons that are going to be on it. I believe they're going to be this style button, but he did send his with the Thrax buttons, because they have, I don't know if they have kind of, there is something similar with the feel. I mean, these definitely feel very different. There are some similarities with the feel, so out of, yeah, I don't know, but they're great buttons either way, just to try on there. But it's not Thrax buttons that comes on. It's not Kong buttons. These are just the buttons that I've put on it, kind of in my playing around. So this is currently on pre-order. Oh, before I get into that, the other thing you may notice is that they look kind of similar in a lot of ways to some of the full throttle stuff. There are some pretty significant differences as well, enough to the point where there is some fidgeting similarities, but there are definitely a lot of differences in terms of how they fidget, and if you really look at the design, how they look. So there's only so many different ways you can go with, weights and chamfers and stuff like that. So, he did reach out to Nick over at Full Throttle Originals, and Nick gave him his blessing. He showed me these quite a while ago, and I said, I think they look different enough, but I'm not necessarily the one you'll want to convince. So I would say reach out to Nick and let him know, and get his blessing. And Nick saw him and gave him his approval. So maybe we'll just talk about that real quick, just to get it out of the way, some of the design differences between this and the Full Throttle. So the Full Throttle, I don't have any of their stuff anymore, sadly. I had one, it was a larger one with the holes cut out in it, and then I had a smoothie that I borrowed or was lent for review. The Asylum, which is the bar version, comes in quite a bit closer to the arms. It doesn't have anywhere near this kind of finger groove that you would use for fidgeting with. So, despite having these sort of trapezoidal type weights with the chamfers, this side profile is significantly different if you take a look at the two side by side. And then the same thing with this one. On the Sanitarium, it kind of, it's more like a chakra, or yeah, I guess a chakra. I was going to say a namaste, but I guess a chakra is actually probably more pertinent because it's got the flatter edges. But it has these kind of little curves, more like curves on the edge, where this has like a deep finger groove. So obviously this isn't a Sanitarium, but anyway, you go back over here. So with that kind of out of the way, machining quality wise, again, this is not indicative of what you'll get, and then design wise, these really aren't Full Throttle Sanitariums and Asylums. Aside from that, now we can kind of get into the review proper. So I guess I'll just let you know as well, it is up for pre-order right now. Now these are in brass or bronze. I think it's brass, but just for the sake of machining, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's going to be available in stainless steel and a stone wash or machine finish, so not in a bronze, but oof. So I guess we should just really get right into it. We're 5 minutes in and we haven't really started really talking about the spinner and the fidgeting and stuff like that. So a couple things I really like about this. Much like this, and then taken up a level, like this is a preloaded demon, right? Like this is right up my alley for getting my finger on here. So again, it just works so well. Now the bearing's a little dirty. But I wasn't too worried. I kind of wanted to do spin times and like clean this out, and then I kind of actually like a little bit of feedback, so this isn't too bad. This is probably a little too far gone. But I didn't actually want to do spin times with these because they're different materials and they're prototypes, and I don't want to put it out there. Like let's say, for example, I mean, the way this weight is distributed and cut out near the center, this could actually get some really good spin times, and I didn't want to put something out there and get, oh, you got 27 minutes on this, I'm only getting 5 minutes on mine. So I didn't want to do that to you, but these should be pretty good for, you know, decent for spin time. So you put like a Heck HG2 in there, or a Fidget HQ, high velocity, or I guess they've got a high velocity 2 now, and I'm not 100% sure the difference on the two. Anyway, let's take a look under the hood. These are glued in there, as will the finished product be. Do you see the body there? Same thing with the other one, so we're not going to worry about taking the buttons off the other one. Okay. Yeah, so fidgeting wise, for me and my style of fidgeting, which is similar to his style of fidgeting, right? Like you can imagine that this is designed to sing, and it sure does. You just need a good grip. You can throw it really hard. Just fantastic. However, you can also, because of how generous these are, it does really well for like a push style fidgeting, especially if you kind of, I guess it's not really preloading, but if you kind of rolling it backwards, so it kind of locks into your finger. Just works really well. Because of that, there's plenty of finger purchase. Obviously, if you catch them on the outside, it works a lot better. But there's a lot of places for your finger to catch, which is fantastic. So, really dig the spinner. From a bar spinner, it actually, in some ways, reminds me almost of the Mini Thrax. So this is a clean bearing, and it's like polished, and it's a little bit more finished as opposed to like this prototype. But it's got a very similar feel to this as well as like the Asylums that I've tried. It does have a very similar feel from like a preloaded perspective, like 'cause you're grabbing it a little further on the outside and the edges. So, and you know, let's just be completely honest with ourselves. The Full Throttle original stuff is nice and great for a reason. So anything that's like them, despite whether we want to call it it's definitely not a clone, but if we want to draw those kind of comparisons, it doesn't hurt. It's a good design for a reason. And this, especially from a preloaded standpoint, gives you a very similar feel. And, you know, it's something that you can get right now, too. That Full Throttle stuff can be really hard to get sometimes. So, and it's not like I wouldn't consider this, you know, settling for something different, because it also offers some differences to that spinner. So, I really dig these. I really dig this quite a bit. So, I was debating whether or not I wanted to kind of like take some pictures and show this off in the groups as I've been playing around with this. And I kind of decided against it because it is sort of like a prototype version. So, I really wanted to be able to put the full thing out there for you when I showed you guys. So. But just, yeah, it feels good, feels fast. It's named, if I don't think I mentioned, it's named the Bolt. And it is like, you know, it's designed to be called the Bolt because of how fast it is, and it does feel very fast. So really dig the spinner. So this is my pick of the two for what it's worth, but I'm more of a bar guy, so that should make sense. So, but let's take a look at this one. Oof, oh man, that is so good. So this one, as good as this one is flicking, because it's a bar and trying to get it positioned right, sometimes you don't always get the best push. Preloaded flicks, right? Fantastic all day long. But this is somewhere between. This is like a Full Throttle Originals met a Talisman. Oh man, that is so good. I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, I do like the bars because I like the preloaded flick. Flicking, pulling like this still works really well with this. Now we've got that tri-balance. But then, oh man, pushing off. Your finger just locks right in there. Look at that. Even if I get my arm on the outside, or my finger on the outside, it settles back in there. Try to keep that more centered for you. Preloaded flicks throw so good. The balance on this one is off just a little bit. You can see that. But this, again, is a prototype, so the balance won't be that off. And when they are that off, the last time he had, if he does get some that are that off, I imagine he would sell them as seconds for pretty cheap, so. If you like tries, man, this thing is fantastic. So, and here's the thing, too. The same sort of thing as this. Like, this isn't like settling. Like, if you're trying to get a full throttle and you can't, or you really like a full throttle, that's even probably more appropriate. If you really like the full throttle, I would get this, because this, I mean, with as generous as this is and how much this, like, hugs your fingers, like, it's very different. It offers a very different fidgeting, yet still offers a very similar, like, preloaded wind-up kind of like... See that? Look at that. I mean, it just works. It's just a good design, and it works. See that? It just works. Yeah, man, I don't know. Maybe it is the one that I like. Maybe I do. There's something that's... For a full-rounded spinner, I'm kind of realizing, like, this is actually probably a better full-rounded, like, well-rounded spinner. For me, this is just so good. Like that right there. Sorry about the noisy bearing, but like that right there is just so where it's at. From like my preferred style of fidgeting. This one does like a preloaded flick. It's got that bar character. But this like still flicks and throws really well, pushes. Does gentle fidgeting if you want to do it. Those chamfers are just nice. Now, it's hard for me to talk about hot spots on something like this. Because again, this is kind of a prototype. You know, these edges are machined pretty well. You know, again, there's some finishing marks and stuff like that on it. It's a pretty rough finish, but again, it's not really designed to be a final product. But some of these, with as fast as you can really get this thing going, like starting and stopping, you probably feel a little bit of a hot spot. But if you've been fidgeting as long as we have at this point, if you've been watching my channel for a while, your fingers are probably calloused up and a little rough and can handle it. So. But it doesn't really feel like it would have like a hot spot. I can just feel those edges a little bit, much as I can on like anything else that has machining, right? Like same thing with this, right? I feel it the same sort of way. Like you just feel those hardened, you know, machined edges, but still feels really nice. Disco. Yeah, what else do we have to say? Interesting for this one, like negative-wise, it's hard to really talk about some negatives because, again, I don't really have like the full finished product in hand. So just from like a design and fidgeting perspective, that's really what we're talking about. And there isn't a whole lot of downsides to say, right? Like on this one in particular, you could say like, oh, the finish, and like, oh, the balance is off a little. But that's not going to be the case with the finished one. You know, but like from a fidgeting-wise, this is like that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know why that just looked really cool to me, spinning slow-mo. Yeah, there's not a lot of really like negative stuff to say about this bad boy. Like, it's one I think, yeah, I think like I gotta be honest, like as much as I like this might actually be the one you gotta reach out for. So let's talk prices. So they're on pre-order right now. $65, $75 for machine finish or stone wash. You've got the choice of either. I'd probably go with stone wash personally, only because I have a better idea of what that stone wash would be like than what the machine would be like. But there's no reason you can't do a machine. And then if you got like the tumbling setup, that's kind of what's nice too. I like having my tumbling set up so I can get a machine finish and stone wash it myself. I might not get as good of a deep stone wash as something like this has. Like this has like a gorgeous deep stone wash, where my stone washing rig kind of does. Do I have anything I have stone wash? Yeah, like, no, that's actually not a good example. Let's look at this one. All right, look at the two side by side, right? You get that nice deep stone washing pattern. And this is almost more like a satiny kind of finish. Still feels really smooth. So, but yeah, from an endorsement perspective, I mean, these from a fidgeting standpoint, get a 2 thumbs up. So I think you got to check this guy out. And again, I encourage that sort of like get out there and go get him kind of attitude. So he's someone I just want to support from like a supporting a cool guy perspective. And I mean, that goes for something, right? Like, you know, part of the reason we love getting our bearings from Heck is because they're from Heck. Heck's a great guy. Part of the reason I love getting my stuff from Fidget HQ is Raj over there are great people, right? Adrian over at Damn Designs, like good people. Joshua over at Spinatic, good people. I mean, there's a lot of people out there in the industry that are good people, you know. Stubbies, right? Paul Watson, great guy, right? You know, even Access Micro now that it's Jordy, right? Like, go Jordy. do I need to say any more? Woozah! Right? Like, so they're good people, right? So we like taking care of the good people out there. So, and hey, it gets us kind of like that spinner, you know, addiction handled for a week or two. So yeah, so I encourage anybody that's thinking about these or like these designs, either you've had your eye on Full Throttle and can't get them. I hate to keep making that same distinction. As much as I say they're very different, they also offer something very similar. So we'll call it like it is. But if you're thinking, if you've been wanting to get one and can't, I think it's worth getting one of these. But if you have them and like them, it's worth getting these, right? So, yeah, I don't know if we got anything else to say. I think we're where we need to be. Should I just bang them together since they're prototypes? No, I gotta send these back. But we do send you out. How do we send you out, internet? Say it with me now. Kisses.